Geraldine, welcome, welcome, welcome to our podcast. I mean, I already feel like we're BFFs. We've been talking for like 6 seconds. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh no, I've been weaving a friendship bracelet. So I assume we're not already friends. What's going on?
No,
We're not.
wait.
We are, right?
We are definitely,
Yeah.
totally.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay, cool. We're going back packing across Europe. It's happening.
it's happening.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Katie has a giant tent we can sleep in. This is amazing.
Oh, it's
Yes.
perfect. It's perfect. Love it. So
It is
excited.
perfect. I mean, we definitely want to talk to you about your new book, but we also realized in our little intro, like before we hit record, that you've been listening and you have some intel for us. Specifically, okay, like go back, listeners, if you haven't heard our last couple of episodes. I think it was our last episode where we talked about plastic covers on couches, and we were like, we really need to do a Google deep dive of why there are plastic covers on couches, and also the name of the first lady who took over when her husband was not well. And I mean, abracadabra, poof. Here you are, Geraldine, and you're the one who has the answers to all this, which was not at all anticipated. So please, please, we would love to know.
All right. So shall we talk about which one should we talk about first?
Okay, so the first lady.
Okay. And I'm looking up, this is terrible. I'm looking up her name.
Oh, right. Who knows her? I mean,
Oh, right.
Oh, here it is. Okay, I've got her official name. So it's Edith Bowling Galt Wilson, which it's not a great name. But it was a different time. And she was Woodrow Wilson's wife and first lady. And so as he was getting sick, she did a bunch of work, like kind of stepping in behind the scenes. And I think a lot of it was they were trying to protect the public from knowing just how ill he was. So that, and I believe that she did that to the end of his term. Like,
Wow.
so yeah.
That's amazing. And are there years on this? Like, is this
Well, so I'm trying to figure out when he first, let's see. I mean, I'm looking at you, Wikipedia. So
I mean,
yeah. So,
I mean, it's
but this,
okay. We can also
he was in office. So he was in office from 1902 to 1910.
Okay.
So she would have been doing this 10 years before women. When did women get the right to vote?
1920.
1920. Yeah. So she would have been doing
Wow.
this a decade before.
That's
Oh my gosh.
fascinating.
I mean, I love that framing too. I will just say I only know that because my day job is at a place named for the 19th Amendment that was
Okay.
founded in 2020, which was the 100th anniversary of it taking effect. So yeah, that is fascinating. She couldn't even vote.
Yeah.
She was running the country.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Okay, well, thank you for that very
Yeah.
much. And then also number two, onto the plastic covered couches. Do you
Right.
have any historical context for that? Because that's fascinating.
So
Yes, thank you for even looking it up.
all I have is largely anecdotal. So this, I mean, if somebody wants to fact check this more, but my understanding is that people used to have slip covers, right, over their furniture, to kind of preserve it and keep it clean. And then towards the 40s and the 50s, as commercial plastics started to become more and more popular, those slip covers became made of plastic.
Oh.
Now, the impracticality of that, right? Like sitting on unbreathable plastic is actually worse than getting a stain on your couch. And as fabrics started to become more manageable and easy to clean, we kind of got rid of slip covers altogether on furniture. So I feel like there's like a mid-century window where plastic on furniture was a thing.
I mean, this gives me a lot of comfort because it makes sense of one of the most nonsensical parts of my childhood, of course, which I mean, there's plastic. Yes, as we discussed, like I was in Alabama when we were having this conversation, right? My grandparents' living room. And I feel like they didn't take that off until I don't know, 10, 15 years ago.
Right. To keep it, to protect it, right? To
Right.
protect the furniture.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you for this. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you so much. We really appreciate you not only listening, but actually doing some of the work for us.
My
So that's
God.
really, really, really helpful. Okay,
You're
so
hired, by the
Some
way.
listener, by the way, is going to come in and be like, none of that is true. Don't know what she's talking
I
about.
have the citations
Yeah.
and yes, my
And you know
library book.
what? I salute that person. Please feel free to well actually me on any of this.
Ooh.
Oh,
Mm.
I'm fine with it. I've got no deep investment in plastic slip covers.
oh my gosh. I mean, I so appreciate it. Okay, so transitioning seamless segue into your book,
We do.
Geraldine, because we're so excited to talk to you about this. Okay, so if you can't take the heat, Tales of Food, Feminism, and Fury, if we can like just bring people up to speed a little bit on, I mean, we're going to be doing, we'll have already done an intro of you before we start this conversation, but can you talk to us a little bit about how you got the idea for this book, like how it came about?
Sure, sure. Well, and let's say that excuse me, I drank an entire gallon of melted ice cream for lunch. So, um, the,
You're
uh,
4 days out from launch this week,
oh,
right? And so when this airs, I also want to say your book comes out tomorrow. So this will go live Monday the 11th, and then the
okay,
book is out the
wow.
12th.
Oh, yep.
Yes, so everybody
So
go
the book
order right
comes out.
now.
The book
Yeah.
comes out on the 12th, so the day after. So stop what you're doing, and please go buy 40 copies of my book,
Yes.
from different independent retailers. Thank you.
Correct. Yes.
Thank you. Yes. So, so how did this start? All right, the sophomore book is notoriously, I found out as soon as I was done writing it, a friend of mine was like, that's the hardest book to write. She's written like 30 books. I was like, okay, thank you for not telling me right away. So I did not, my first book was about travel. It's right behind, this is my husband's office and he has my book on display. So it's right
Oh.
behind me. So all over the place was my first book and it was about travel. And it's just this fun kind of lighthearted travel memoir. Fast forward a few years, like I don't know what I'm doing. I'm in this malaise of like I'm still writing about travel, but that feels it feels really out of touch. And the world that like the things that are happening in the world kind of concurrent with me writing this pithy travel blog, it's hard to balance. As time progresses, I start moving away from travel writing, and then the beginning of the end of the world happens. Trump is elected. COVID is spreading, and I have at that point in time completely stopped writing about travel. But I don't know what I am writing about. Like I have no clear anchor. Uh, in late 2017, Mario Batali sends an apology letter out for allegations of sexual harassment, which actually were way worse than harassment. Like the allegations were quite bad. Like extreme crimes were committed. I'm trying not to get myself sued, so it's hard to know how to
Mm.
phrase this.
Fair, fair.
Allegations
Allegations.
of
The
Allegations
allegations
keep
these
were
things.
very
Yes.
okay,
extreme.
Hmm.
keeping it vague.
Yep.
Um, and so he is allegedly a piece of shit, is a good
Allegedly.
According
allegedly.
reports say.
Allegedly is a garbage human being.
Yes.
So
Oh
he tries
God.
to get ahead of the story and sends out an apology with his newsletter.
Oh God.
And at the end of the apology, he includes a recipe for pizza roll or pizza dough cinnamon rolls,
Mhm.
which is a bad, I'm looking at it, I'm like, this is a bad recipe. Now, I normally like I've been writing on my blog periodically about like random stuff. And because things have changed, like I've started to write more about feminism, right? I've started to write more about issues that have a bit more gravitas than just travel writing. And so I decide I'm going to make these cinnamon rolls because the recipe looks like garbage. And I write about them, but I also write about it through the lens of the Me Too movement. And I interweave kind of some personal stories. I interweave some sort of larger scale stories. Hillary had just, lost. It felt quite recent, right? It was 2017. Her loss felt quite recent.
Yeah.
And so in early 2018, I published this blog post. It goes, the technical term is bonkers viral. So Martha Stewart is retweeting it. Pete Wells, who is the food reviewer for the New York Times, the food and restaurant reviewer, is retweeting it. It is everywhere. I think Eater magazine Eater does a piece on it. I'm being interviewed by my local newspaper, and then my Twitter account gets hacked. So, and I'm getting all this hate. I'm getting like death threats. I'm getting hate mail for a blog post.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I get my Twitter account back. I'm getting like a glimpse of the dark underbelly of the internet. And a friend of mine, some months afterward, kind of, I like to say she bullied me into nominating myself for the James Beard Awards, like 10 minutes before the due date.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I do a quick nomination. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to win. Do a quick nomination. I get nominated, which again, I don't know, God got drunk. I get nominated. And when you say like it's just an honor to have been nominated, I was holding, that's what my husband and I kept saying because we knew I wasn't going to win. Like, we're like, it's just the nomination is really the biggest honor here because you're up against real food writers from the Atlantic and the New York Times. So like, you're not winning. And I kind of told myself that, and I didn't end up going to the awards show. And so I'm on because I had an obligation. I was speaking at this point in time. I'm speaking about online harassment. Like I'm doing keynotes about this.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, well, I can't cancel this talk that I have planned to go to New York to lose an award. Like that's not a logical step. So I am in Victoria, Canada, and I've just given my talk, and my husband and I are out. We're getting like a cup of coffee and we're walking around, and my phone starts like it is buzzing out of my pocket, and I've just won a James Beard Award.
Oh my God.
My gosh.
Which
oh my God.
Is like me winning a James Beard Award is like, I don't know, it's like me telling you, you've just won a Grammy for having a clean house.
Oh my God.
Like, it's like this thing and this thing. What is happening? So, this is it's a weird career detour. And now I'm like, what am I doing? What am I doing?
Wow.
Now, then COVID happens.
Yeah.
I spend all of COVID, I think like most of us were like, this is the hardest time of my life. And I am going to try and create some big magical work of art. Right?
Yes.
Did you,
Naturally.
you both were here
Oh,
for
yeah.
this, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yep. So I literally pitched a fiction book idea to my agent in October 2019. And she was like, I love it. Do it. It's about a global disastrous pandemic that separates a woman and her partner he has a restaurant. And it is about him trying to keep the restaurant afloat and like realizing the loss of that as the world starts to shut down. And then she's a journalist who is kind of pursuing this megalomaniac sort of billionaire influencer. And as the world starts to sort of shut down, he becomes more and more high profile. And I'm like, as I'm writing this, all of these things start happening. And I'm like, well, I can't write this book. Like,
Okay, you're a sage. Like what?
No.
Like, oh my
Seriously,
gosh.
like that is
Whoa.
scary.
Chills.
That is some
my
very
friend Mike calls it my Cassandra novel. He's like because you were speaking the truth and no one would ever hear it. And I was like, well, it didn't get written, so that's not accurate. But I think what it was I think we all were reading the tea leaves. Like I think we all were like, something's on the horizon, like the world, something is happening with the world. I think we all felt it. And so I don't think it was that. Like, I've read other books around that time that really hit on these same topics that were published like years before. So I think we were all reading the tea leaves. But anyway, I felt like I couldn't write that book.
Yep. Mhm.
So from there, um, you know, uh, things start to open up in
Mm.
2020. And like I'm spending these 2 years like writing shit, like writing it, throwing it out, like
Mm.
absolute malaise, somewhat writer's block, just not knowing what I'm doing. About 2 years after that, I guess it would have been 2021, end of 2021, restrictions open up. My husband and I go to Europe. We go to Italy. We see family I haven't seen in forever. We meet up with friends and we have this big, ginormous dinner at a very fancy Michelin starred restaurant. And it is a hot mess. It is the worst, one of the worst meals of my life. It's
Oh God.
4 hours long
Oh
and
my
they
gosh.
serve us like 200 calories.
Oh, okay. You had like one bean.
Yeah.
Oh
Oh
gosh.
wait, I saw something about this on your Instagram. Okay, sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead. I did
No,
see.
no, you can totally ask or interrupt. Please do, because I will ramble on for forever. So, yeah. No, Karen, please. I know
No,
I
no.
can feel it. I feel you wanting to say something about it.
I just saw on Instagram there was a mold of the chef's mouth that you had to, and they didn't give you utensils, and there was like some kind of liquid in it. And the only way to get at it, they wanted you to lick it out of this mold of his open mouth.
No,
They
no, no,
wanted
no.
you, yeah.
That's
So they
not
give
real.
you, it looked like the way I say it is the logo from, you remember the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? Do you
Yeah.
remember the logo on the front, the planet with the big open mouth?
Yes, don't
So
panic.
that's what it looked like. It was like this sphere with this big open mouth, and they were like, there was no spoon, and there's a foam inside, and so you had to lick it out.
No.
And then when we were done, and I'm starved at this point, I'm like, whatever, I need calories to get to have my strength to fight my way out of this restaurant when this is over. And afterward, the server came and he grabs the ramekin and he turns it over and he's like, "Oh, lucky you!" And he tells us which chef's mouth we slurped out of.
Ew. Oh God.
Oh my gosh, that's
What?
so offensive and disgusting. I mean, beyond. Like,
It's such an exercise in narcissism, right?
Oh yeah.
so
Yeah.
It's
literal. Like, it's like that
it's
is.
yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
my
it's bad.
gosh.
It's straight up bonkers bad. So I wrote a post about it, and all of my friends who were there that night are like, wow, you were restrained. So I write this post. And again, I don't expect it to do it. Like, you never expect when you do something like that, you don't expect virality, right? Never expect virality. And again, it gets picked up, but this time like it goes viral internationally. So I'm in the Italian news. I am in the US news. I'm doing interviews to the Washington Post. Stephen Colbert did a segment on it.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm getting something like 5 million visitors to my blog. My blog is crashing.
Oh my God.
And I'm having a talk with a friend of mine, and I'm like, I don't know what my second book is going to be. And she goes, why don't you write a series of essays on about food? And I said, but I'm not a food writer. And she goes, really?
Hmm.
I was like, okay, point taken, point taken. Um, so that led to this, which was this book, which is called If You Can't Take the Heat. It is out the day after we are talking because this is coming out in the future, but it is now 4 days away from me. So that is why I'm standing here with unwashed, uncombed hair, braless in my pajama pants, like trying to hold it together. And my husband's like, maybe take your foot off the gas. I'm like, I can't. But
Oh God.
it is about our complex relationship with food, with feminism. It is the story behind these stories. So it is about the abuse that I got after these stories went viral. In the latter case, like from the chef himself. It's about like the New York Times writing a puff piece about this chef and completely skewering me, making me out to be the big bad blogger. So it's all these layers. And then within that, it's also like getting targeted with, calorie counting and diets and all of these things about being healthy when really they just want you to hate your body. And how it's not just women who deal with that, it's all of us, and how this mentality really hurts everyone. And I try and within all of that, make it funny. So yeah, Backwards in Heels is this book.
Oh, feminism, but keep it light.
Yeah,
I
feminism, but make it fun.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things I said to Katie, and I have in our notes, is like, I love this interweaving of a chapter's never just about food, right?
Right.
Right. And it's the same thing with I did read the Mario Batali essay. It's also not about, it's about making the cinnamon rolls, but it's not about making the cinnamon rolls. And
Mhm.
I just love this marrying of these things, obviously. And I think I'm older than the both of you, but I think we
I
are
don't think you are,
the
but
same age-ish.
I think we are the same age-ish. Yeah.
Because if you were a toddler in the early 1980s, you were Katie's age.
I'm 43.
Oh, okay.
I'm 42.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm 48.
Fuck off.
Thank you for that, Katie. Can we use that as a promo for
Definitely.
right? Oh my God, 49 in fucking July. So I'm getting to a question here, I promise. One of the things I love about all of this is that like you talk about all of the warped shit that shaped us,
Yeah.
right? And exactly like you're describing, like this like weirdness about food, weirdness about our bodies, weirdness about our relationships with men. I fortunately don't have relationships with men, but I respect those of you who do. So I just wanted to name like it's refreshing to feel seen. And the question is like, why is it important for the women of our age to keep telling our stories?
Well, I think because this is the age, like, right? We're post 36. So this is the age where we are told from a societal standpoint that we should be driven out to a field and left there.
Defend for ourselves.
Just standing there. For some reason, we're all in long prairie dresses in this scenario. I don't know why. But yes, the male elders of the village have deemed, our barren wombs no longer bear fruit, or perhaps they never did. Or perhaps we are too mouthy with our mouths, quoth the elders. And so
Yeah.
they take us out into the fields and they leave us, right? So I think there's this idea that, as you get older, you become irrelevant, right? And men, what is it? Women get old, men get distinguished. And Andy McDowell talked about this because she's gone, completely gray. She looks gorgeous. Um, but people are always, every interviewer wants to ask her about her hair. And she's like, no one's asking Clooney about his hair. No one's asking Steve Martin about his hair. Everyone's asking me about mine. So I think that, yeah, I think it is this realization that like, if no one else is going to listen to us in the end, we have to listen to ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Fundamentally, like we have to hear each other when we speak. But also like we really need to be driven in understanding that our stories have value. Like, can we talk about menopause for a second, or perimenopause?
Please.
Okay. Which
Please.
no one talks about. It sounds like it's a bad word that no one talks about. And you're not told, like, it was this understanding of this is what you're going to experience in your 50s. And that's like what the societal kind of definition of it is. It's like, oh yeah, like I was watching some TV show and the woman's experiencing like menopause symptoms because she's in her early 50s or maybe late 50s. And I'm like, what?
No.
I'm having hot flashes in my late 30s. So, and that's not something that we were prepared for. And then it's made to seem like it is this failing, like once your body starts to age, well, you turn to dust, and we don't have decent treatments for osteoporosis because it disproportionately affects women. So to hell with you. And again, they drive us out into the woods. So like I do think that this is stuff that we need to talk about because no one else is. And like we need to tell each other, like we need to create some sort of, network of informing one another, right?
Yes.
Because there's like literally there's not even medical uh publications about it. So yeah,
Mhm.
that's part of why. And also because if I don't put this stuff in a humorous light, I will lose my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is going to help so many people. Seriously. Like,
Right.
it's just, like you say, there's not a network of like people, like women telling women about their experiences. I mean, it's like
Mm.
you can't join a Facebook group that would like be the thing that would actually be healing for all of the things that we deal with out in the field while we're in our long prairie dresses. Like, this is so hard. Like,
Right.
it's hard. And I mean, I give you so much credit, Geraldine, for making this also humorous, because it's like that is a particular skill that I think makes it it's almost like it makes it, I don't want to say like more relatable, but like it's like we can hear it better. I think
Yeah.
there's like something to be said for that, because it's like when you only make things like serious, 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 people are just like, oh my God, I can't take it all in. And it's not that it shouldn't be serious all the time, but like the
Right.
fact that you have that skill to make it humorous. I mean, I so appreciate that. And I would love to ask you about chapter 7, the only thing in my
Mm.
oven, because when we were preparing for this, Karen specifically shouted out that section to me. And it seems as though you talk a lot about the choice not to have children. And I love
Yeah.
how, like, your turn of phrase, the only thing in my oven, like, I mean, honestly, that's just brilliant. And so I'd love to hear what your thoughts are around that chapter, like kind of what went into that chapter and what came up for you in terms of that topic.
Yeah, well, so uh, you know, to Karen's point, and I can't remember if she said this before or after we started recording. Karen, you tell me, was food writing is you essentially said food writing is never really about food, right?
Yeah.
Like it's always something bigger than that. And that's something that I've always held true, right? It's not like are you actually writing about chocolate chip cookies, or are you writing about some sort of fundamental you know role that women have historically had. And
Mhm.
so I knew that I wanted to write about the fact that I'm a 43-year-old woman without kids, and I've been with my partner for 22 years. So we have I have heard every single I've heard every single comment about this. I have been pulled aside at parties.
Mm.
I have been cornered and questioned. And at the point, and if you think about fundamentally what people are asking you, it's so deeply personal. Um, yeah. And so I realized that like the one kind of thing that I do that is, well, I do a lot of things that are weirdly maternal while simultaneously not having or wanting children, is I bake a lot. And that is something we've always associated with like warm, nurturing motherhood.
Hmm.
But none of the women in my family who actually did have kids baked.
Mm.
Interesting.
So, yeah, so I wanted to explore that a bit, but also just like talk about what it is to not have children and all of the intrusive questions that you get. And then if you do have kids, it's not much better. Like if you have one, people are like, when are you going to have another? Or if you have several, people are like, well, look at all that you've sacrificed to do that. And the way that division of labor plays out. I have a friend who is an active and involved father, and he says the way that people act like I am some sort of savior because I do 49% of the work.
Ah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I wanted to talk about that and chocolate chip cookies.
I don't like, ooh, I read Katie this. I'm just going to read this first paragraph of
Yeah.
this chapter because I feel like it. says so much. And it's so I will also say background. Katie is too humble to say this. We have 2 episodes about this from Katie, and just the rawness of it and the vulnerability of it and how difficult it is to say these things out loud. So I'm going to read this first paragraph, even though you just said a lot of it. I am in my 40s and I do not have children. This is by design, though occasionally I let people think that it is perhaps due to factors that are beyond my control. This deliberate obfuscation of the truth feels like a betrayal of some feminist doctrine I thought I believed in. And yet the indisputable fact is this: people are a lot kinder about me not having children when they think it was something I chose.
Yeah.
And that to me is a fucking mic drop of like, yeah, we're so shitty to people.
We're so shitty. And we really don't want to give, I say women, but let's make this a trans inclusive conversation, right? Anyone who
Absolutely.
can get pregnant, people with uteruses,
Yes.
which I tried to do several times in the book. And my editor was like, we know what you're saying. Like, that's a very long sentence now. So
Birth givers, right?
birth
Yes.
givers, yes. We don't want to give us any sort of control over this, right? But we do want to judge. We want to judge till the end of the day,
Yes.
right? And there's no avoiding the judgment on either end, right? And the only thing that I realized coming out of this is that as a woman without kids, I can say, I don't know if I've made the right choice. But if you do have children, you're not allowed to say that, obviously, right? You're not allowed to. But I know so many people who feel that way.
Yes.
They're like, I don't know. And I think if we just allowed people that grace and we were just like, yeah, like it's fucking hard and there's no social like protections, there's no social services, there's not like there's no network of people helping you. There's, we say, oh, it takes a village, but there's no village. Like there's not. If you don't have a ton of family with whom you have a great relationship, hopefully a supportive spouse, and a ton of disposable income, I don't know how you have children. I
mean,
don't.
full stop.
Yeah.
Totally. Totally. And back to your comment earlier about not seeing the value in women over 35, I think that translates to not seeing value in women who don't have children. And it's
Yeah.
like, it's just, it's so hard. Like, I went through a hysterectomy a year ago, and that's when what Karen was mentioning, talked about like the comments. I mean, honestly, Geraldine, I know, the getting pulled aside at parties, getting all of that. I mean, it's just, and I think what, it's mostly for me has been very insidious where it's happening, the energy, people are not like so overt, but then every once in a while, it's like the random neighbor who you met once a year ago saying something to you that you're like, whoa, I'm gonna take that to my grave. Like it's like so hard. And so it's just yeah, it's rough. Like it's so rough. And I so appreciate you bringing this up. And it dovetails perfectly into my next question about the promotion process for this book. So like you said earlier about how there aren't conversations happening like this. These essays that you wrote are so deeply important, and women are not able to always have these types of conversations or be comfortable having these types of conversations, or they're not in spaces where they're having them. So when you're promoting this book about these conversations, what has that been like so far? Like how are people receiving you, and like what's happening in the world that you're experiencing toward you or for the book or any of that? I would love to know.
Uh, that's an interesting, wow, that's a really profound question. And I think it's not one that I've thought about because
That's Karen's question, by the way. Giving
yeah.
credit to Karen. She made up that question. It's on the list. I'd like that credit where credit's due. It's
You
Karen's question, please.
delivered it beautifully. Thank you.
And I would say it's not one that I have thought about in terms of, is there an alternative to this? Right. But there have been moments where I find myself, tell me if you do this, when you have done or said something that is true and that you believe in, but you realize that it is causing discomfort to the other person because they now have to see you as like a woman in the world, or, Karen, like a Black woman in the world, or, whatever you are bringing to the table, a disabled woman in the world, or a trans woman, or, whatever experience that you have in the world that you are bringing, and you have said something and you can tell they're now uncomfortable, and you start to adjust to make them feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'd say this as like, I'm coming to the table with a ton of privilege, and I find myself doing that. And I'm like, shit. So
Mm.
I've been kind of acutely aware of that, right? Like, I had a call with somebody, and afterward, he sent me the like, I hope you don't think I'm a sexist.
Oh God.
Oh my God. Ugh. Barf. Just begging you to caretake for him.
Right? I haven't replied yet because I haven't had the bandwidth. Um, which is funny because now poor guy's stewing, like worried that I do think he's a sexist. Um, and I don't know that I do. I don't know him well enough, but he said some things that were a little bit off, and I called him on it.
Yeah.
So it's complex. It is very complex. Um, I
Yeah.
feel lucky. I feel lucky. And I will say, without getting, without naming names, the women have showed up for me
Mm.
in beautiful ways. Like when it comes to interviews, when it comes to promoting, like just beautiful, beautiful ways. Like women have shown up for me in this book, which has been fantastic. And that really makes me happy. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love to hear that. I'm so relieved to hear that. And like,
Too.
we will, of course, in the show notes, Katie does them, all of the ways that you can buy this book and all the ways that you can access your writing in other ways. And okay, I'm looking at the time. Okay, we're good. So I think like in response to that, oh, that discomfort, Katie and I have talked about this so much, and like forcing yourself or forcing myself when I feel the discomfort to stop talking. Because this, you get this wash of emotion, this wash of like, it's not quite shame, but it's not shame. And it's just like, you feel the discomfort and then you want to take care of them. And then you start filling in this silence with this
Mhm.
shit that like takes all these things back and betrays yourself. And it's just like
Mhm.
so hard.
Well,
Like
I didn't mean
know
it
what I
that
mean?
way.
Yes,
Oh.
exactly. No, no, no. You know what I mean? But I'm not saying you're sexist, motherfucker. You are. But
Yes,
like, I'm
exactly.
not
I'm actually, that's what I'm saying. But yeah.
like, that's actually what I'm like. It's just that, like, oh my God, like forcing yourself to like just let it land.
Yeah.
Oh, it's nerve-wracking.
I even did it today. I pulled back. I was like, I don't know that he's sexist. Like he's fine. He's fine. Probably not sexist.
Everybody's a little sexist, right?
Fine.
Oh my
Yeah, I
God.
think I mean, Karen, I think you're so right. Like creating that silence, like let people stew in their discomfort.
And you got to stew in it too. That's the worst
Yeah.
part. Like it's there and there. Like, yeah, Kay and I talk about this energy all the time. Like you both just gotta like
Mhm.
just sit there with it.
You have
Yeah.
to suffer. Sometimes we have to suffer other people's growing pains. Sometimes they have to suffer mine. Like that's happened plenty of times.
It's so hard though. I have a friend who she does the silent thing and then she also will just be like, "What was that?" and then silent. She'll be, and I've seen it. I've been, yes, that is my reaction, Geraldine, because she
Oh
she
my.
doesn't give a fuck. She genuinely does not get. She like is maybe one of like the only people I know, and she's like, "Can you repeat that? What was that you just said? Like what?" And then every single time I've been around her when she said this, the other person, usually a white guy, is like, I didn't. I mean, like you know what I meant. Like it wasn't. I mean, and she's like, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's like That is a steal. Like in like that, I want to be that person.
I would pay classes for
Yes.
someone to teach me
I should
how to
tell
do
her.
it. I would pay classes.
Yeah, I would pay too because I think it's also, at least for me, it's inherent. It's a instinct. It's like an impulse. It's not something that I think about to overcompensate or like to, like to caregive. It's something that's like an instinctual is what I meant. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I think because we're designed, if we make people who have more power than us uncomfortable, that isn't right. We perceive that as we're historically and socially, that is not an act of self-preservation,
Totally.
right? So it is, I need to make sure, I need to make sure you're comfortable. And that's one of the, like, it's not just fight or flight. There's two others. There's freeze and appease. And so it's like, gotta appease you, right? That's what that is.
Survival.
Appease, I'd never heard that one.
I've never heard
Yeah,
appease either.
that's a big one for me.
Ooh.
It's not great.
Classes. We're going to take classes together. It's fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Katie, I'm looking at questions. Are you looking at questions?
I'm looking at questions. I actually love this question, which is, I mean, so this also is one of Karen's questions. Thank you, Karen. About the election cycle. Geraldine, I would love to just know, like, how are you doing? Like, how are you doing like, just that's it. That's all. I'll just
Yes, just like how
yeah.
Not good. Unwell.
Yes.
Looking up how I can get Canadian citizenship. No, I hate that every 4 years we have to scramble and fight and donate money and try and do all of these things to combat something, a very small percentage of the world's population and a very small percentage of the American population, right? Like, they are not the majority, from plunging us into total fascism.
Yep.
I hate that. It makes me so enraged. I hate Mitch McConnell. I hope whatever he is feeling right now, I'm gonna just rant. I will cheer the day that man dies. I will cheer, and I hope that whatever he is experiencing is painful. And I hope he is acutely aware of the end coming to him, and I hope it is soon. And it is already too late. If he dies tomorrow, he will have lived too long. I hate him. I hate him with all of the soul of my being. I absolutely cannot stand this white trad wife fundy bullshit that is taking over this country. I hate the racism and the xenophobia and the anti-trans rhetoric and the anti-LGBTQIA rhetoric. I hate all of it with a passion, and yet I am one person who lives in a blue state. So besides voting and throwing money at other elections, I'm not sure what I can do, and I feel so powerless every day. And there are 24 fucking states where abortion has essentially been made illegal, and there were so many people saying this was happening. There were so many people saying that this was happening, and we were made out to be hysterical and irrational. And I am angry every day, and I am holding on to this glimmer of hope, but also I'm trying not to pay attention too much because I will go crazy. And that is where I am. And that is probably not the best answer that I could have given. And that's where I am.
That could be on a plaque. The whole part, including the part about Mitch McConnell. I will say, kudos. That was the most eloquent answer to that question I could have. I mean, honestly, that was.
I'm probably gonna get put on a do not fly list now.
I mean, book tours are overrated, right? Like,
right. I do not personally wish him. I will not do any acts to hasten his death.
Yes.
Okay. I am no threat to him.
That's good.
No.
Ooh, that's good. That's good. That sounds like legal. Yeah.
Yes.
Legally. Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
But if the swift hand of death comes for him.
Oh God. I mean, I also feel like the eloquence around the helplessness. Like, what else?
Yeah.
What else? Like, I have a friend who ran for her local school board, and
Yeah.
she like loves it, right? And it was like not competitive, but she's a graphic designer. It's Emily from Lime Red, right?
Oh
It,
my
like,
God, what? That's
uh,
amazing.
right? She's on the school board in Skokie, Illinois. She fucking loves it. And I, of course, know her ADHD brain well enough to know like this is a stepping stone for her. Now she has been elected to an office. And that means she can be elected to more offices. And I'm like, okay, you have a plan. I appreciate this about you, right? Like you have your like answer to this, what the fuck do we do question. And I don't, for the rest of us, like, I don't want to run for office. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
I live in Indiana now. God help me. So like, yeah, that sense of like, other than the throwing the money, what do we even do?
Yeah. And that's it. Because everybody's like, oh, you should run for, I don't want, why is, I want us to not be a fascist country. I have to run for office.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I just don't want a vote in Wyoming to count 4 times what a vote in California does.
Totally. Oh, I
On
so
an
appreciate.
uplifting note,
Yeah, on an uplifting note.
No, let's keep raging.
It's International Women's Day. That's what it's for.
I
Yeah.
know. I was just thinking that actually, that like we're recording this on March 8th, International Women's
Yeah.
Day, and we could not have a better guest, Geraldine. Seriously,
Oh,
thank you so.
stop.
No,
Who
for
are you
real though.
talking about right now?
You, and you. I mean, I am so glad that you're here. Thank you so much for your time. I want to respect your time. I know that we are at time, and definitely, friends, look in the show notes. There will be a link to the Mario Batali essay. There will be multiple links to where you can buy Geraldine's book and how you can follow her on all the platforms. Thank you. Seriously, thank you so much
Oh
for
my
taking the
gosh.
time.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. I feel like I'm about to start apologizing. I'm not going to. I'm not. I'm going to stop.
Oh my gosh, you're brilliant. We had so much fun talking to you. And I want you to be thinking about, like, I've already written down like a number of the episodes you're going to be back for. You're going to come back for perimenopause and menopause.
Yes, please.
Fucking trad wives. We need to have a conversation about this shit. Yeah, no, I've got a
Yeah.
list.
Yeah. And it's funny because a lot of them are food influencers, right? And that's kind of my world. A lot of them are. So that's real interesting.
That is really interesting. That would
Yeah.
be a fascinating conversation if you were willing to chat with us again. Oh my gosh, that would be so much
Yeah.
fun. Wow.
Yeah. We could totally talk about that.
When you resurface from book promotion land.
Yes.
And put on a bra and wash my hair.
I mean, well, let's not get crazy. Whoa,
Right.
whoa. One thing at
We're
a
not
time.
we're not meeting the queen.
Right, exactly.
Come on.
Oh my God. Well, thank you so much, Geraldine. We so appreciate it. And we'll see everybody next week.